So the basic plot of Future Diary is not that complicated, or at least at first. Kind of simple. God of time in the universe, kind of dying out, gives a handful of people, candidates, like these phones that serve and function in various ways, and they're all due to battle to the death to become the next god. Simple battle royale storyline, but we all know it's never that simple.
As I rewatched the series, when I first watched it, I was a huge fan of it. But as I gotten older and all that, I started to notice some flaws in it. From Yuki, Yuno, number 3, number 4, all the other diaries users. Sometimes it doesn't make any sense. Sometimes it makes sense. And then sometimes you have episode, I would say 23, which... oh boy. And then episode 24 happened. It was a good anime when I first watched it without knowing too much. And then as you rewatch the series, as you progress through it, you start noticing the flaws. One flaw that I noticed is a 3-year-old getting access to like a nerve toxin. How?
The world may never know.
Right. And with Yuno, major spoiler alert, with Yuno being a goddess from the first one and went to the second world, and she fell in love with Yuki and all that from the second timeline. When the first timeline, they did get together and all that, but Yuki ends up killing himself in the first one when they were supposed to take cyanide tablets at the exact same time. So that means she didn't take her and let him die. That's a big... wait, what? Hold on. Wait a minute, moment. The third diary user, the ability of being able to see through her follower. The thing is, wouldn't they ever mention the 12th diary user? Like, hey, there's a big guy with a giant ass sack running around. That doesn't make any sense. You find out that her family died and then they started molesting her. And it's just, what?
Yeah, I guess that's like one of the bigger like issues in regards to like Future Diary as a series as a whole. I can't speak on whether or not this is an issue in the manga as well, but from what I've seen, it seems to be kind of 1-to-1. So this is probably on the mangaka as well. The diaries being inconsistent and not being really straightforward, I think, is one of the bigger common criticisms when it comes to this series in general, and especially like also being someone who grew up on this series when it first came out and revisiting it, and you do see a lot of issues with it. The biggest ones being the diaries not being consistent, and that can really take you out, and consistency consistency in your world and how the rules work all matter, and that's pretty much the building blocks in a narrative, or at least in the story that you're trying to tell. And if the major aspect of this narrative are the diaries and how they work and how they function, and if they aren't consistent, things start to fall apart afterwards. And that's like one of the more major issues with the series. And that's not even like the only issue with the series. There's other issues with the series as well. Like the obvious one, I'd rather just get this out of the way, like Yuno being the god from like the first timeline, definitely does not feel like something that was written in mind. It feels like something that was a last minute, like either a rewrite or just a reveal that the mangaka or whoever came up with, because there's not really any hints of that other than the quote unquote the third victim that was in Yuno's household, and like people trying to figure out like, is that Yuno, is that somebody else? We don't really know. Is she who she says she is? But it's possible that was either the quote unquote twist was somewhat thought up of, but the manga didn't do a good job rewriting it, so that was the only thing he can write in on his rewrite on his second draft or third draft or whatever, or B, it was leading up to something else. It wasn't leading up to that exact reveal. And even though the reason why like Yuno isn't exactly like using her god powers is because she has the memories of the Yuno of that timeline, even then, like there are still issues with that. Like, how in the world does the time god in this timeline just automatically know someone traveled back in time and went to this timeline already? He would know that immediately. That's the issues with that when you're creating like an omnipotent or omnipresent character like that. And then just
that's another thing, is like, why would the second Yuno's timeline diary affects the first timeline? Because she has 2 diaries. Big spoiler. There's 2 diaries. You destroy one, she still lives. So that breaks like the whole continuity of if you destroy the diary, your character's dead. Done. And number 10, transferring ownership of the diary to his daughter and dies when the daughter still die as well. It's just, it was a good series. It gotten me into like a really good band. Ooh, boy, the band of the first season, first part, was phenomenal.
Yeah, the opening for the first opening for the show is actually pretty good, and it's actually pretty iconic. Like the not just the song, but the animation in general. A lot of people like used it for a lot of different like AMVs and stuff like that back in the day. I remember how prevalent it was seeing it, and
Sorry to cut you off. The artist who does it is Yoshiyuri Takiyo. I'm sorry if I butchered that. She does really good music. She sings in 3 different languages.
Like, as much as I like the power couple, I guess, like their diary like doesn't really like, again, also feeds into the whole like the issue with the diaries in general and how inconsistent they are. Like the fact is just they serve as one diary even though they're 2 different people. So
and the biggest fucking F you to the whole series is they never answer Yuki's dad killed his mom. Manga doesn't explain it. Me doesn't explain it. The author doesn't explain it. It's still a question today. Is fandom is why did that happen? But yeah, and the thing is, if I was the dad and I was trying to tell my son, hey, your mom dead, starts looking at his, I would have slapped the shit out of him.
Yeah, that whole sequence was kind of odd to say the least, especially on that first viewing, even though that initial like shock was still like a big like oh shit like moment when you first see it. It's just subsequent viewing, it doesn't hold up to scrutiny like at all, especially since it's never clear as of why that event actually happened at all.
And the next episode, the dad's murdered. Stabbed through the heart by some random guy. Doesn't explain it. I think the guy was because he was murdered because he was in debt. I fucking kill him.
There's another thing with like Uryu is that like as much she's a fan favorite and as much people like her, I mean I like her to some extent, but it's one of those things you have to have a conscious disconnect because people tend to forget like at the beginning she killed people. She literally blew up like a school building. Like she put bombs all over a school building. She literally pulled Unabomber Columbine shit, and she's like played off as this anti-hero character later on in the series, and she gets to like this happy ending, which is just super weird. Not to mention the fact she has like 3 or 4 death fake outs the entire show.
And honestly, her getting stabbed in the eye, she immediately ditches. I'm sorry, like yeah, I get it. She removes the eye and replaces it with fake, but who removes it is 12. He removes it with fucking hand. No sedative whatsoever. He just goes in, opens the eye and goes, okay, let's go. And the dude is blind. Yeah, big shock. 12 is blind. He removes an eye. Yeah, and in the future, Colt chick find out, yeah, she was molested. Colt parents died. Well, we have to take our frustrations out on something. Let's take it out on like an 8-year-old or a 13-year-old. She smokes. No, it's just, she was supposed to be like, she played off as an innocent person. Turns out she's not so. She kisses Yuki, and then Yuno's look shit, beheads people with an axe, and then he gets killed by just a dart. How many died because of a dart? Like, I believe like 3? 3 people died from the dart. Teacher, that cult leader chick, let's just say 2 people, fair. And there's another part where Yuki kidnaps, Yuno kidnaps Yuki, and they go to an abandoned town. How did the other people find them? Like, they don't explain. They're just like, hey, we just went to this hot spring, and now we're going to this abandoned town. Oh, look, Yuno are here. It doesn't say how long they were there. And the one dude uses the bathroom, and then he complains about not washing his hands, and my brain was like, dude, just use the bathroom. How do you not know the water's running? It's just so frustrating. And then they're like, oh, gas, we're gonna die and all that. How can tell if it's a gas? Most gases are the reason why your gas line smells like eggs is that's an artificial thing that we put in, so you smell it. Most poisonous gases don't smell like anything, so how they were able to smell that it was gas blows my fucking mind.
I mean, well, it was getting like sent in a room, so that was their assumption though. That's just me playing devil's advocate.
Yeah, you're like, I get it, but I'm gonna be screwed about this. Is like, most people don't know what carbon monoxide smells like. Most carbon monoxide poisonings happen while you asleep because your brain dies because you don't realize that you're being poisoned. That's why most fire detectors have a carbon monoxide detector. My body can't detect it.
I guess that's another thing you can also mention as an example with the Yuki kidnapping Yuno kidnapping Yuki, and like him being like literally clearly there, like, and he's malnourished, and it's clear that it had to have been at least a couple weeks, and like subsequent episodes afterwards is like not even mentioned. And
Yeah,
like,
he's back to full health, full nutritional value, and all that.
and they like get back together, and like it becomes this weird flip-flop. And this is like another issue with the series as well, is that like events will happen, and we mentioned this with Zuryu, and that like events will happen and they're either not mentioned at all the next episode, doesn't play a factor. It just stuff happens and nothing feels like it plays a role, or at least none of the individual events that you think would play a role, like they don't play a role at all, other than like, unless you count like the main plot where the diary users are trying to kill themselves or trying to kill each other. So like that's the only like through line that's technically consistent. But like,
and the thing is that one guy I was talking about earlier who didn't wash his hands. It's still disgusting, by the way. Always wash your hands after using bath. People don't know what kind of bacteria the human body is. Fucking disgusting. As somebody who's worked in the food industry, holy shit. How did he get transferred to the same school as Yuki after the school was blown up? He didn't realize that, hey, that person with the purple hair, she sounds familiar. Oh shit, she blew up my school. I'm gonna avoid her. But no, he saw, haha, crazy hot lady, I'm gonna follow. I mean, I would too, but
also kind of illustrates an actual like a possible like plot line that isn't like utilized at all though. Like you can have like this uneasy alliance between like these two characters, and it's never like fully utilized. I mean, sure, it's uneasy-ish at the beginning, but they get married at the end. But was this? I mean, I know some people like that, some people don't. I think that's silly. I think that's dumb. Honestly, I think like if they were going to make Uryu like this anti-hero character, unironically, I think the only way to make this work, and this may sound edgy as hell, but unironically, have her give the sacrifice play, have her die at the end, and have some level of redemption, rather than doing like this happy ending thing like at the end. But with her,
I mean, Deus did actually interfere with her death and all that and gave God power.
I mean, she can still die. You can still like have stakes though. I mean, I don't really think you need to like, she has God powers now, so like she can't die. It's like, no, okay.
Yeah, and apparently her kid inherited the God powers as well.
Yeah.
So the powers are enabled. The OAV kind of ruined the wholeness of that was the timeline. So the OAV shows Yuno going back to you. Doesn't explain which Yuno. It doesn't say the second Yuno. Well, she's dead. Yuki killed. Or is it the first Yuno? Well, that one was the second one. It doesn't make any sense.
Another thing to mention is that there's no I mentioned this before. There's no sense of like character progression like at all. Like other than character get good ending, like there isn't like a good sense of like cause and of like, well, I did mention this before, but like nothing really feels organic with the characters, if that makes sense. Like some of the events, especially in this, especially in regards to Yuki, and this is a massive criticism, I'm not seeing anything new here, is that he's a very passive character. He gets pushed along by the plot. He doesn't drive anything forward per se, and it definitely feels like the story had like this one direction like going on, like this one ideal vision, and the author or writers, whoever, didn't like utilize the characters to their like max potential, and never like once feel like the characters drove the narrative, if that makes sense. If there is the illusion of that, because each character is distinct, each character has their own personality, well, kind of, but it never like feels like they really like affect the world, they affect like the narrative as much in comparison to like any other series, compared to like Fullmetal Alchemist or anything like that, where character decisions will affect other characters, and those decisions will peter out down the line and we see the effects of it, as opposed to here where it's kind of the exact opposite, where something happens one episode, next episode is either forgotten about, never mentioned again, or just contradicts it. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, the one thing I want to point out, one episode everyone's telling Yuki to man up, put your woman in line and all that. They're playing as a team. And then Yuki snaps, just like full on snaps, and becomes suddenly Sherlock Holmes.
And there's numerous amount of like plot holes that like honestly like you can go like draw a Venn diagram with like stuff that's actually like wrong with the show, like writing wise though, but like that's generally like not really the main. Let's be frank here, and we're gonna segue into the good, like what we like about the show, but like that's generally not really the main reason why people liked Future Diary. It was was mostly like the battle royale aspect, the different distinct characters, the action of the show, like, and the fact that the show was,
they weren't afraid to kill a kid.
yeah, the show is actually like really fun, honestly, even with its myriad of issues. Like, okay, well, we're gonna think though. Okay, like animation still pretty stellar, honestly, especially in retrospect. Especially like watching it like now with today's like shows coming out now, because you have like Mappa and like Madhouse, etc., being insanely like good at their craft. But like the studio here actually, I think, did a really good job though. The individual like action scenes and the shootout scenes and the hand scenes are still like very spot on and still very iconic. And I think you mentioned this before, like when we were like watching it one time, that color theory is actually used pretty well in regards to character design.
Oh yeah, color theory is used really well in Future Diary. The white hair kid, the angel, the gay angel. Let's not forget he's gay, people. His hair is white, which is to show innocence, while his eyes are red, is supposed to show a keening sharpness. Yuno's hair is pink, kind of show off an innocent kind of when she's being cute, and you're like, oh, she's so innocent. But then her eyes are kind of a deeper pink, kind of more of a reddish kind of pink, that's supposed to be like a keen kind of like a keen mind. With Yuki, brown hair, baby blue eyes. Brown hair, very common in Japan. Blue eyes, a very innocent kind of eyes. I think the ninth diary, purple hair, purple eyes, crazy as shit. Purple hair, crazy. I can name 3 other people who have purple hair and stated that.
Even though, like, it does kind of fall victim to, like, gee, I wonder who the main character is, syndrome, you know, where you have a room full of, like, normie, like, characters.
I mean, Yuki was pretty normal looking.
Like, he's like he's the most normal looking out of everybody else, but when you look in a room full of, like, other characters, how, like, colorful they are, even though their character designs, I think, are pretty well done, it is kind of funny, seeing it also being used in like the early like 2000, you know, the 2010 meme of gee, I wonder who the main character is type thing, where the one character who stands out the most and has the most like character design, has the most thought put into like his or her design in a room full of just normie looking like extras in the background is actually kind of funny, but still, like, that's not to dig on the character design, because I actually think it's pretty good, minus a few characters that I don't like. The chick who runs the orphanage, I think, looks pretty weird.
Yeah, that one guy I hate who didn't wash his hands. His character's kind of bland, but he's very outgoing. He was a bully and then became friends with Yuki. What the fuck is that shit?
Yeah, like despite of its like issues though, like series still like has its fun factor. Like series isn't like, it's edgy as hell, but it's still fun. It doesn't feel like it doesn't overly take itself too seriously. There is kind of a cheeky like edge to it, no? Or I mean, at least I think that's the case. I don't know, I could be reading too much into it, where like there is somewhat of a sense of like I don't know if self-awareness is the right word, but there is a bit of like,
I would say self-irony.
Self-irony maybe to an extent. And like even then, like there are some people who like, you can have fun and make fun of it like the same with any other like show though. Like it does have that value as well to it. Like you can still watch in like both regards and have fun with it. Like either take it like as it is, or you can actually like have fun with it like with like knowing of its issues and making fun of its issues and actually pointing them out.
I mean, because of Yuno Gasai, we can look up the definition of yandere and she pops up.
Yeah, pacing is the biggest like issue with the like pacing is another like issue, despite like being like 26 episodes, shockingly enough.
Now onto the juicy good bits we like, right?
Right.
It was because of Yuno Gasai I'm into yandere. Because of her, I fell in love with one chick with the guns. Fucking Psycho from High School DX, great character. Rem technically from ReZero is a yandere because she falls in love with Subaru and goes at shit.
I think I kind of like went over like my points. The animation is really good. I think the action is really good. I think the show is really fun. Despite my issues with the characters, they can also be like where the enjoyment also comes in. Yuno is every insane yandere character ever, but there is some fun to be had with her, and like honestly, she isn't like I don't find her totally insufferable. Unlike Yuki is like, I think only has gotten worse with age. especially since there's like so many other characters, main characters that are actually like smart and clever and affect the plot and actually aren't complete pushovers in their own narratives, especially when this thing was coming out, both before and after, during. So like when you had like characters like Edward Elric and freaking Light Yagami like as well to compare them to. Yeah, so like those just the two have come to my head because those are the two that were like very popular at this point in time. But yeah, it's like it's decent. It's not the worst show ever made. Like I do think that's a bit clickbaity. I do think the reason why it has that sentiment is because one, how popular it is, because how many people watched it and liked it when it was first coming out when they were younger, and then it's a combination of people getting older and looking back and realizing that the show isn't that great, and also people knowing its popularity and looking at it, seeing its lack quality and saying that is like not that great at all, or is this the worst thing ever, which it really isn't. Like there's a lot worse stuff out there. Like I don't think any, like 9 out of 10 people, even anime watchers, don't even know what pupa is, and honestly that's like almost on a lot of like worse lists as well.
Gage literally gets his head fucking cut off by Yuno to stop him, and his body keeps moving forward. But they still hide the fact that he's like his headless. His body walks up to Yuki holding the phone out saying, Yuno is not who you think she is. And it cuts to Yuki's point of view basically, and he's beheaded. Like, God. That was like a shock. Like, holy shit. And this was after him fighting Deus, being erased from existence, telling him, yeah, I'm real because I'm in love. It was a very holy shit kind of moment. That scene stands out in my mind when I think of Future Diary. Yuno going on the rampage, killing a cult. Also, Yuno opening the vault after the guy's like, only this was designed by this family. Nobody, not even their daughter, can open it because daughter dead. She opens the vault, kind of confirming, yeah, she is the daughter. And his face is like, oh, I've done fucked up. That was a good one. The panty scene that stands out. Any other scenes that stand out in your head, Lone?
You kind of like went over a handful of them. It's generally like the action scenes, and also like the scene you mentioned with the decapitation scene as well. That's actually pretty well done, honestly. Like especially going back to it, like it was an oh shit moment then, it was an oh shit moment now. It's still pretty well done.
Still no shit.
Yeah, so like I think I might end this in a little bit. I might just shout out like a few other like series that are similar to this, because I do think like I haven't watched Danganronpa in a good while, but that one's actually pretty...
Danganronpa, if you really want to watch it, play the games and then watch the anime. Few that stick out on my mind that kind of like Future Diary that I think that people should as well. This is my anime recommendation. Vincent's anime recommendation. It's an old school one. I like it. It's called Angel. It's a really good one. Another one I would highly recommend is Gleipnir. Gleipnir is kind of a battle royale kind of anime, but it has like supernatural aliens in it, and I think might do another one on that. Any that you would recommend?
In regards to like shows that are similar to like Future Diary, I think one that holds up kind of better, and I don't see that many people talk about nowadays because it was pretty popular when it first came out, is Eden of the East. Even though that series is ending, I do think could have been ironed out, because there's the main show and then there's the 2 movies that came out after it. Yeah, but they're like, even then that series has some unanswered questions. It's like, why is the main character like nude in the beginning? Like, why is there this? Why is there that? Like, who is the actual individual? We see him, but we don't exactly know who he is. We don't know how he got this money. We don't know how he orchestrated this thing. Even though I like the series a lot, and I do think it does better with its concept better than Future Diary does, because Future Diary has so many more issues with its thing. I do think Eden just needed at least one more movie at least, or something like an OVA or something like that, if there wasn't one already out. I don't really know. I haven't watched it in a good while, but it just needed to iron out some things. It's just inches away from being damn near perfect, because that series is actually really good.
Dead Man Wonderland?
Dead Man Wonderland is kind of like in the same bracket as Future Diary, to be frank. I haven't watched it in a good while, to be honest. Like, that also gets like criticism of being like edgy as hell, but like, I don't know. Like the anime also like got ended like before it even finished the entire... Yeah, like, I don't know if I want to get through the manga though. I'll have to see through that. Shout out to Vincent Darkfire, aka the Unkillable Weeb, for popping up in this video. I actually had a lot of fun rewatching the whole series again in preparation for this. Link to his channel and the podcast we run are down below in the description. Hope you guys take care. Stay chill, Wanderers.